Picture this. You've just perfectly diced a beautiful potato, maybe for your famous potato salad or some home-style French fries. You turn away for just a minute, maybe to grab another ingredient, and when you look back, it's happening. That ugly, brownish-grey tint is already creeping across those pristine white surfaces. Sound familiar? We've all been there. It's frustrating, and it can make your final dish look unappetizing. But what if I told you that most of us are making one critical mistake right after the knife leaves the potato, and the solution is so simple, so immediate, yet it's not what most people think it is? Stick around, because in this video, we're going to uncover the one thing you absolutely must do the very second you finish cutting a potato to keep it perfect every single time. So, before we dive into the solution, let's quickly understand the enemy. Why do potatoes pull this annoying disappearing act, changing from a lovely cream colour to a sad, bruised-looking grey? The culprit is a sneaky enzyme living inside the potato cells called polyphenol oxidase, or PPO for short. When you cut a potato, you break open its cell walls. This exposes that PPO enzyme to oxygen in the air. When PPO and oxygen get together, they start a chemical reaction that turns other compounds in the potato, called phenols, into a brown-coloured pigment. Think of it like a tiny, invisible factory inside the potato that switches on the moment it's exposed to air. It's the exact same process that makes apples, bananas, and avocados turn brown. The potato isn't going bad or rotting, it's just a natural, albeit unattractive, defense mechanism. Our goal, then, isn't to fight the potato, but to outsmart this little enzyme factory before it even has a chance to start production. The absolute first and most critical action is immediate submersion. I don't mean finishing all your chopping and then putting the potatoes in a bowl. I mean, the very second your knife has made its last cut on a potato, it needs to go directly into a bowl of cold water. Speed is your greatest weapon against oxidation. Remember that enzyme, PPO. It starts working the instant it meets oxygen. Every second you leave those cut surfaces exposed to the air, the browning reaction is kicking into a higher gear. By plunging them into water, you create a physical barrier. The water completely shields the cut surfaces from the oxygen in the air, effectively shutting down the browning factory before it can even begin its work. This isn't a suggestion. It's a rule. Have your bowl of cold water ready before you even make the first cut. Think of it as a safe zone. Knife slices, potato falls, plunk into the water. This single, swift action is the foundation of perfect potato prep and is more important than any other step that follows. It's the difference between vibrant, beautiful potatoes and a bowl of disappointment. Now let's talk about the temperature of that water. It absolutely must be cold. Not lukewarm, not room temperature, and definitely not hot. Why the emphasis on cold? It's all about slowing down that chemical reaction we talked about. Enzymes, including our pesky friend PPO, are like tiny engines that are very sensitive to temperature. In warmer conditions, they work much faster and more efficiently. Think about how much faster food spoils on a hot day compared to in the refrigerator. The same principle applies here. Lukewarm or room temperature water will still provide a barrier against oxygen, which is good, but it won't do much to slow down the enzyme itself. Cold water, however, does double duty. First, it's that essential oxygen barrier. Second, the cold temperature acts like a sedative for the PPO enzyme, dramatically slowing down its activity. It puts the browning process into super slow motion, giving you a much wider window of time to work with. Using ice water is even better, especially if you're prepping a large batch of potatoes and they'll be sitting for a while. So remember, a cold plunge isn't just a suggestion, it's a scientific strategy to keep your spuds pristine. Submerging is step one, but what you might not realise is the importance of rinsing away the surface starch. When you cut a potato, you release a lot of its starchy insides. This is the cloudy, milky stuff you see in the water. While this starch isn't directly responsible for the browning, Getting rid of it is crucial for the final texture of your dish. If you leave that excess starch on the surface of your potatoes, it can become gummy and sticky when cooked. This is the enemy of a crispy French fry or a perfectly roasted potato. By giving your cut potatoes a good rinse in that cold water, swishing them around with your hands until the water becomes less cloudy, you wash away this excess layer. This allows the potato surface to dry out more effectively later, which is the key to achieving a gloriously crisp and golden brown exterior when you fry or roast them. For dishes like potato salad, rinsing prevents the pieces from sticking together in a clump, ensuring each cube is perfectly distinct. So the water bath isn't just a holding pen, it's also a washing machine for your potatoes, setting them up for textural success in the final dish. This leads us to a common kitchen debate, a quick rinse versus a long soak. Is there such a thing as soaking potatoes for too long? The answer is a definite yes. While a short soak of about 15 to 30 minutes is fantastic for removing excess starch and preventing browning, leaving them submerged for hours upon hours can have negative consequences. Potatoes are porous, and they will start to absorb the water they're sitting in. This can lead to a waterlogged potato, which can result in a mushy or mealy texture when cooked. Imagine trying to get a crispy roast on a potato that's essentially a small sponge full of water. It's just not going to happen. Furthermore, some of the water-soluble vitamins and minerals, like vitamin C and potassium, can leach out of the potato and into the soaking water over a long period. So, what's the sweet spot? For most applications, like prepping for dinner in an hour or two, soaking is perfectly fine. If you need to prep them further in advance, like the night before, there's a better way which we'll cover. But the general rule is this: soak for purpose, not for storage. A short soak is your friend, an all-day bath is not. Ready to take your potato preservation to the next level? Let's introduce a secret weapon: acid. Adding a small amount of an acidic liquid to your cold water bath can be a game changer. A splash of white vinegar or a squeeze of fresh lemon juice works wonders. Here's the science behind it. That PPO enzyme, the one causing all the browning trouble, is a real diva. It only likes to work in a specific environment, and it particularly hates acidic conditions. Its optimal pH range for causing browning is around 6 to 7, which is close to neutral. By adding vinegar or lemon juice, you dramatically lower the pH of the water, creating an acidic environment that the enzyme simply cannot function in. It effectively deactivates the enzyme, stopping the browning reaction dead in its tracks. You only need a small amount. About 1 teaspoon of vinegar or lemon juice per quart of water is plenty. Don't worry, this tiny amount won't be enough to significantly alter the taste of your potatoes, especially since you'll be draining and likely rinsing them again before cooking. This acid plus water trick is a professional technique that ensures your potatoes stay brilliantly white for hours. If you don't have lemon juice or vinegar on hand, there's another common kitchen staple that works just as well, if not better in some cases: salt. Adding salt to the cold water bath is an incredibly effective method for preventing browning. It works in a couple of clever ways. Firstly, like acid, salt is an enzyme inhibitor. The chloride ions in salt interfere with the active site of the PPO enzyme, essentially jamming up its machinery so it can't cause the browning reaction. Secondly, salt helps to draw out some of the excess moisture from the surface of the potato through a process called osmosis. This is particularly beneficial if you're planning on frying or roasting your potatoes, as a drier surface leads to a crispier result. A common ratio is about half a teaspoon of salt per quart of water. Simply dissolve the salt in the cold water before adding your potatoes. This method is especially popular for making French fries, as it not only prevents discoloration but also seasons the potatoes from the inside out, leading to a more flavourful final product. It's a simple, effective, and multi-purpose technique. Now, let's address a common kitchen myth. You might have heard or read online that adding sugar or even honey to the water can prevent browning. The logic seems plausible at a glance, Perhaps the sugar coats the potato or interferes with the reaction. However, this is one piece of advice you should definitely ignore. While sugar can slightly slow down some enzymatic reactions, it is nowhere near as effective as acid or salt at inhibiting the PPO enzyme responsible for browning in potatoes. In fact, adding sugar can actually be detrimental to your final dish. When you go to cook the potatoes, especially with high heat methods like frying or roasting, that sugar on the surface will caramelize very quickly. This can cause your potatoes to burn or develop dark, almost burnt spots on the outside long before the inside is fully cooked. You'll end up with a dish that looks scorched and might have an unpleasantly sweet aftertaste. So let's put this myth to rest. When you want to stop browning, stick to the proven scientific solutions: cold water, acid, or salt. Save the sugar for dessert. Let's apply this knowledge to a universal favourite, the perfect French fry. The journey to a fry that is shatteringly crisp on the outside and wonderfully light and fluffy on the inside begins the moment you cut the potato. After slicing your potatoes into batons, they must immediately go into a cold water bath. This, as we know, prevents browning, but for fries, the rinsing and soaking step is non-negotiable. You want to remove as much surface starch as possible. Agitate the fries in the water, drain and repeat until the water runs almost clear. This is the secret to preventing limp, greasy fries. Once rinsed, many top chefs will soak the fries in fresh cold water, often in the fridge, for at least an hour or even overnight. This further removes starch and helps firm up the potato. Before frying, the most crucial step is to dry them completely. Spread them on a clean kitchen towel or paper towels and pat them dry. Water is the enemy of hot oil. A dry surface is what allows that perfect crispy crust to form. This meticulous preparation, all stemming from that initial plunge into water, is the true secret behind restaurant-quality French fries at home. What about potato salad? This is a dish where the appearance of the potatoes is paramount. Nobody wants a potato salad with a dingy, greyish hue. The immediate cold water bath after dicing is your first line of defence. It keeps the cubes bright and beautiful while you prepare your other ingredients. But there's another benefit. Rinsing away the excess starch, as we discussed, prevents the potato cubes from becoming a sticky, gummy mess after they're boiled. This ensures that your final salad has a wonderful texture, with distinct, tender cubes of potato rather than a single starchy lump. Some cooks even add a splash of vinegar to the boiling water when cooking the potatoes for salad. This not only helps them stay white but also helps the cubes hold their shape better, preventing them from falling apart. After cooking, you should drain them and let them cool. Dressing the potatoes while they are still slightly warm allows them to absorb the flavours of your dressing more effectively. So, from the initial cut to the final toss, managing that oxidation and starch is key to a picture-perfect and delicious potato salad. For roasted potatoes, the goal is a beautiful contrast, a deeply golden, crisp, almost crunchy exterior and a creamy, fluffy interior. This too all starts with the initial prep. After cutting your potatoes into your desired size, the cold water rinse is essential. By washing away that surface starch, you're paving the way for maximum crispiness. A starchy surface will steam rather than roast, leading to a leathery skin instead of a crunchy one. After a good rinse, it's absolutely vital to dry the potatoes as thoroughly as humanly possible. Use a salad spinner if you have one, or pat them dry with towels. Any moisture left on the surface will turn to steam in the hot oven, hindering the browning and crisping process. Before tossing them with oil and seasonings, make sure they are bone dry. This meticulous drying, which is only possible because you first rinsed away the sticky starch in that initial water bath, is the true professional secret to achieving those coveted, deeply browned and audibly crunchy roasted potatoes that everyone craves. It proves that the final result is dictated by the very first step. It's also important to consider that not all potatoes are created equal. the type of potato you're using can have a big impact on how quickly it oxidizes and how you should treat it. Generally, high-starch potatoes, like russets, which are ideal for baking and frying, tend to brown much faster than waxy potatoes. This is because they have a higher concentration of those phenolic compounds that are part of the browning reaction. So, if you're working with russets, being extra quick with that cold water bath is even more critical. On the other hand, waxy potatoes, like red potatoes or fingerlings, have less starch and a denser cell structure. They hold their shape well, making them perfect for potato salads and roasts. While they will still oxidize, they tend to do so a bit more slowly. Yukon Golds fall somewhere in the middle. They are incredibly versatile with their creamy texture and medium starch content. Understanding your potato is part of the strategy. A starchy russet needs diligent rinsing for crispiness, while a waxy red potato benefits from it to avoid stickiness. But the urgency to prevent browning is highest with the starchy varieties. So can you prep potatoes the night before to save time? Yes, you absolutely can, but you must do it correctly. This is where a long soak is not only acceptable, but necessary. After cutting and rinsing your potatoes, place them in a bowl or container and cover them completely with fresh, cold water. Make sure every single piece is fully submerged. Any pot exposed to air will still turn brown. You can add a teaspoon of lemon juice or vinegar to the water for extra insurance against browning. Then cover the bowl tightly with plastic wrap or a lid and place it in the refrigerator. Stored this way, cut potatoes can last for up to 24 hours. It's crucial that they are kept refrigerated and submerged in water. Do not store cut raw potatoes at room temperature or in a sealed bag without water for extended periods. This creates a low oxygen environment where harmful bacteria like Clostridium botulinum could potentially grow. So, prep ahead but do it safely. Fully submerged in the fridge and you'll have perfect potatoes ready to go the next day. What if you don't want to use a water bath? Perhaps you're just chopping one potato and will be using it in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Is there a no water method? Yes, for very short-term situations there is. The goal is still to limit oxygen exposure. One effective way is to place the cut potatoes in a bowl and cover them directly with a damp, clean paper towel or kitchen towel. The moisture from the towel creates a humid, low-oxygen barrier directly on the cut surfaces, which significantly slows down the browning process. This is a great trick if you're in the middle of a recipe and just need to keep your potatoes fresh for a few minutes while you chop other vegetables. However, this is strictly a short-term solution. It won't work for 30 minutes or an hour, and it doesn't do anything to remove the excess surface starch. For anything longer than a 10-minute wait, the cold water bath remains the superior and more effective method for both colour and texture. For those who are serious about meal prep or want to freeze potatoes, there's a technique that trumps all others: blanching. Blanching is the process of scalding vegetables in boiling water for a short time, followed by a rapid plunge into an ice bath to stop the cooking process. This quick blast of high heat completely and permanently deactivates the browning enzyme, PPO. It's the ultimate way to stop oxidation in its tracks. To do this, bring a large pot of water to a rolling boil. Add your cut potatoes and cook for just 2 to 3 minutes. Immediately use a slotted spoon to transfer them to a large bowl of ice water. This is called shocking, and it stops the cooking, preserving the potatoes' texture. Once they are completely cool, drain them and pat them thoroughly dry. At this point, they can be stored in the refrigerator for several days, or spread on a baking sheet and frozen before being transferred to a freezer bag. Blanched potatoes will not turn brown, and they'll also have a head start on cooking, making them perfect for quick roasted potatoes or fries later on. Let's revisit the science of starch for a moment, because it's so fundamental to potato cookery. Potato starch is composed of 2 main molecules, amylose and amylopectin. The ratio of these two determines the potato's texture. High-starch potatoes like russets are high in amylose, which results in a fluffy, mealy and dry texture when cooked, perfect for mashed potatoes or fluffy baked potatoes. Waxy potatoes, like red potatoes, are higher in amylopectin, which helps them hold their shape and gives them a denser, creamier texture. When you cut a potato, you rupture the cells and release these starch granules. Rinsing them away, as we've discussed, is key. Why? Because that loose starch on the exterior will absorb moisture and turn into a sticky, gel-like substance when heated. This starchy gel is what prevents a crispy crust from forming. By washing it off, you're allowing the heat from the oil or oven to directly interact with the potato structure, creating the browning and crisping reactions, known as the Maillard reaction and caramelization, that we all love. It's a simple step with a profound impact on the final result. Here's a detail that might surprise you. Your choice of knife can actually affect how quickly your potatoes turn brown. Have you ever noticed that some chefs are very particular about their knives? It's not just about sharpness. The material of the blade matters. If you use a knife made from carbon steel, you might notice your potatoes discoloring faster than when you use a standard stainless steel knife. This is because carbon steel knives can react with acidic foods, and more importantly, the iron ions from the blade can leach onto the potato surface. These iron ions act as a catalyst, which means they speed up the chemical reaction of oxidation. They essentially give that PPO enzyme a super boost, making it work faster. Stainless steel knives, which are an alloy containing chromium, are much less reactive and won't have this effect. While a sharp, high-quality knife is always best for clean cuts that cause less cell damage, if you find your spuds are browning at lightning speed, take a look at your blade. A simple switch to stainless steel could make a noticeable difference. If you've ever looked at the ingredient list for pre-cut potatoes or apples in the grocery store, you might see something listed as an anti-browning agent or freshness preserver. What is this magical substance? More often than not, it's simply a form of ascorbic acid, which is the scientific name for vitamin C. Ascorbic acid is a powerful antioxidant. It works by essentially sacrificing itself to the oxygen before the PPO enzyme can. It reacts with the oxygen first, preventing the enzyme from ever getting a chance to start the browning process. You can easily replicate this at home. You can buy pure ascorbic acid powder online or at some health food stores and add a tiny pinch to your water. An even easier way is to crush a vitamin C tablet and dissolve it in your cold water bath. This is the same principle as using lemon juice, which is naturally high in ascorbic acid, but it's a more concentrated and flavour-neutral way to achieve the same powerful anti-browning effect. It's a clever bit of food science that you can easily use in your own kitchen. But what happens if you get distracted and your potatoes have already started to turn that dreaded greyish-brown colour? Is it too late? Are they ruined? The good news is, no, they are not. First, it's important to know that this discoloration is purely aesthetic. The potato is still perfectly safe to eat. It just doesn't look as nice. If the browning is minor, once you cook the potatoes, you likely won't even notice it, especially in dishes like mashed potatoes or hearty stews. If the discoloration is more significant and it bothers you, you have a couple of options. You can use a peeler or a small knife to simply shave off the thin, discoloured layer from the cut surfaces. It's usually only a millimetre or two deep. Alternatively, you can choose to use those potatoes in a dish where their appearance doesn't matter as much, like a thick, pureed soup. So don't throw them out. A little bit of browning is not a culinary disaster, just a sign that you need to be a little quicker with the cold water next time. The principles we've discussed for potatoes are not unique to them. This knowledge of fighting enzymatic browning is a universal kitchen skill that you can apply to a wide range of fruits and vegetables. Think about apples for a fruit salad, pears for a tart, or even avocados for guacamole. They all contain similar enzymes that react with oxygen. The solution is the same. Create a barrier and introduce an inhibitor. For apples and pears, a bath in cold water with a squeeze of lemon juice is the classic and most effective method. For avocados, brushing the cut surface directly with lemon or lime juice works wonders. Understanding this fundamental concept of food science, that you can prevent oxidation by limiting air exposure and lowering pH, empowers you to be a more effective and confident cook. The potato is just one excellent teacher. Once you master it, you'll see browning not as a problem, but as a simple reaction that you know exactly how to control across your entire kitchen. So, let's bring it all together into the ultimate potato prep workflow, a step-by-step master plan. Step 1. Before your knife even touches the potato, have a large bowl of cold water ready and waiting right next to your cutting board. Step 2. As you peel and cut each potato, immediately transfer the finished pieces into the water. No delays. Step 3. Once all potatoes are cut, give them a good swish and rinse in the water to wash away excess surface starch. Drain this starchy water and cover them with fresh, cold water. Step 4. For extra protection, especially for high-starch potatoes, or if they'll be sitting for a while, add an acid like a teaspoon of vinegar or a pinch of salt to the water. Step 5. When you're ready to cook, drain the potatoes and, this is crucial, dry them thoroughly. Pat them with paper towels or use a salad spinner. A dry potato is a potato that will crisp and brown beautifully. By following this simple 5-step workflow every single time, you are guaranteeing that your potatoes will remain perfectly white and are texturally primed for whatever delicious dish you have planned. It's a foolproof system built on simple science. So there you have it. The single most important thing to do the moment you cut a potato is to get it into a bath of cold water. It's not just about stopping that unsightly browning by creating an oxygen barrier. It's about controlling the temperature to slow down the enzymes, and it's about washing away that excess surface starch, which is the secret to a perfectly crispy texture. Adding a little acid or salt is the pro move that takes it to the next level. It's such a simple, immediate action, but it has a massive impact on the quality of your final dish, whether it's the fluffiest fries, the most beautiful potato salad, or the crispiest roasted potatoes. You are now armed with the science to conquer the spud. Thank you so much for watching. If this tip helped you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more kitchen secrets. Now I have to ask you, what is your absolute favourite potato dish? And have you ever had it ruined by browning? Let me know your stories in the comments below.